Hello and welcome to today's session on how to access 211 services online. So for today's session, we're going to be looking at the 211 Miami website, what's available there in terms of resources and how to navigate it. Now, this website is something you can access whether you're on a phone, a tablet, or a computer. However, today I am going to be doing our demonstration on a computer. So some components of the website, some placements of buttons might vary slightly depending on the device you're on, depending on the size of your screen. So please do keep that in mind. However, the experience should be relatively the same across the board. All right, so first of all, here we are on the 211 Miami website. Now, to get here, all you have to do is type into the URL bar at the top of your web browser 211miami.org. You can also Google 211 Miami and you can also Google 211 Miami and find it that way. So right off the bat, this website is pretty straightforward. It primarily uses this navigation bar at the top of the screen here to take you to different parts of the site and different resources. However, there are some kind of quick links here right on the front page in this kind of slideshow of images. So, crisis and emergency resources, mental health resources. For any one of these, you can just click on the image and learn more about that specific resource. Additionally, you can scroll down and see some quick links to other resources. Now, obviously, 211 Miami is a number that you can call. Now, obviously, 211 Miami is a number you can call. It's a confidential helpline that connects people in need to community resources. However, this website also provides access to those resources. So if you are looking for specific resources and would rather look for them independently on the site, they basically link to all the resources they might connect you to over the phone on here. But additionally, the 211 Miami phone line provides emotional support and crisis counseling to clients in emotional distress. They are available 24/7 in English, Spanish, and Creole. So you can definitely call them at any time when you're in need. However, if you're just on the lookout for other community-based resources for certain things, this website is a great place to start just to see what's available out there for you. All right, so one note before we do get into navigating this website. The first thing I want to note on this website is that they do have accessibility settings available on this site. So if anything about this site for you is difficult to navigate, any of the text maybe is difficult to read or buttons difficult to discern, there is a way to make the website maybe a bit more readable or just easier to see and navigate for you. And the way you can do this is through this little button over here on the side. I'll kind of zoom in on it so you can see it. This little guy right here, this is your accessibility button. So when you first come to this website, if for any reason some of the text is too small or again, just too difficult to read, you can always click on this button and this allows you to turn on any sort of accessibility settings available here. So we have options like a screen reader. We can do things like change the contrast of the site, which you'll see changes this maybe to make the website colors a bit more differentiated. We also have the ability to highlight links so you can more clearly understand what is a clickable button and what is not a clickable button, as sometimes this may be unclear. You can also simply change the size of the text. As you can see, if I click on bigger text, I can make the text bigger. It is important to note with all of these buttons that you just kind of keep clicking. So if you wanted to return back to the initial setting, just keep clicking until it returns back to that setting, back to normal. There's also things like we can pause animations. So if the moving of that slideshow was maybe too distracting for you, you can turn that off. And additionally, you can change your cursor to a larger cursor on your screen, as well as using a reading mask if you're reading something, which basically just gives you this small square that makes it easier to follow along with where you're reading, or a reading guide. So a lot of options here to choose from, but just wanted to point that out at the top. This is available on, a handful of websites out there. So something to ever look out for if you're having trouble reading or, just accessing a website. But with that aside, we will jump into this site. So as I said, first of all, on this homepage, the main way we're going to navigate the site is through this bar at the top. So home is the page we're on currently. So if I were to click on home, it would just basically reload this page. So regardless of what any page I'm on, I can always hit the home button to take me back to the main page of the website. Next, we have the About Us button. So About Us, if I click on it, should just take us to the About Us page. And this just tells you a bit about 211 Miami, what they offer, and their history. So if you're just curious about that, you can come here and read all about it. There's also a who we are. There's also who we are tab. This just gives you information about the organization's mission, vision, potentially, staff and board members, and maybe some contact information as well. So you can click into this and say you're interested in learning about the mission and vision. You can click there, and again, you'll be able to read a bit about the organization. But the next button is really the main place we are going to be navigating from. It is the resources and services section. So if I hover my mouse over the resources and services section, I'll get this drop down menu and we'll see what we have available to us. So we have community resources, add your agency or program. This is for organizations, not necessarily for individuals accessing resources. There's also a COVID-19 resources section, a 988 suicide and crisis lifeline resource section, a suicide prevention section, and other information and referrals. So we're going to start with the community resources section. So this is really the area where you would access in place of calling 211. So if you were to call 211 to be able to get connected to certain resources, say, counseling or financial assistance, you could just come here. So they have a list of all the different services, types of services available, whether it's after school programs, food programs, counseling, financial assistance, community clinics, childcare, veteran services, housing, or else home care. So if you are interested in a particular service, all you'll have to do is click on the button, say it's counseling, I'll click on counseling. And this should take me to a new page that has a list of all of the resources available. So the Jewish Community Center, so the Jewish Community Services team has basically put together this curated list of resources available in the Miami area. And so with any of these resources, these are the resources they have available. So you'll basically be able to see a list of all the resources, and you can scroll down to read about what the resource is, find out their location, as well as a phone number at which you can contact them. But you also have the ability here to search through these resources. So if you are trying to find, say, some sort of service that is close by to you, you don't want to have to travel a long way, you can add criteria, like you can add a zip code to list by location. So if I want to put in a zip code, I'll put it in here, and then I can decide I only want to see services that are within, 15 miles of this zip code. And you can list by location. That way you kind of narrow down your search to resources that are nearby you. You also can search enlist alphabetically or anything like that. But I find that that zip code option is really your most helpful way for learning to navigate these resources, especially if they're resources that you may be trying to access in person. So once you're done with the resource, you can just close this tab because it does open a secondary tab on your page up here. And you can access any other of these services. And again, say I click on housing, it should be a similar process. It will open up a new tab. We'll see the whole list of all of the resources that the 211 has put together for you. And we can do things like add a zip code, list by location, list by best match, or list alphabetically to see what's there. And we get all the information on a service. Say there is a service we are interested in. This up here where it's there, the name of the service in blue is a clickable link, so we can click it. And it should take us to a sort of profile page for this resource. And this will give us a bit more information potentially about it. So we can see a map view of this, generally where it's located. If this address doesn't really mean much to us, might not. We can also see an overview, so the description of it. This is an assisted living facility and what it provides. You know, what are the hours? What's the intake process? And how can you contact them? What are their program fees, if any? What languages do they serve? And who's eligible? And all that sort of information. You can also see different details. And then, of course, their contact information down here. So each resource listed on the 211 Miami website will have one of these pages, so you can really get all the information you need. Again, this is just the digital way to access the same sort of resources we can access by calling 211, and it's just for those who wish to maybe do it that way rather than call. So that's that community resources section. Again, we also have the COVID-19 resources section that we'll look at now. And here we just have some links to the Miami-Dade County and Florida Department of Health additional COVID information here and links to how we can access those and what protocols 211 has in place for dealing with COVID-19 related issues. Now back up to resources and services. Next is the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. So this just gives you a bit of information about the JCS helpline services for the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. So it just tells you a bit about this helpline. So in order to access this helpline, all you have to do is dial 988, and the current lifeline number is 1-800-273-8255. It's listed right here. And you can talk to someone there. There's a lot of information about this line here. So, if you want to access this service, but you're just not really sure whether it's fitting, you can read about it. And if you even scroll down further on this page, you'll see what are 988, 911, and 211. And this outlines the difference between the three numbers and why and when you would call which one. So 988, you would call for suicide and mental health crisis care to reach them. Obviously, 911, you call for dispatching emergency medical services, fire and police. So if an incident has occurred, you'll want to call 911, not 988. And 211 also provides suicide and mental health crisis care with an emphasis on local community resources and care coordinator. So 988 being the immediate care for suicide and mental health prevention, 211 allowing you to access resources there. So those numbers and their uses and why you would call each outlined there. Next, in resources and services, we also have suicide prevention. Now, this page just outlines once again the suicide prevention resources that are available for 211, mainly calling them for those resources and for that immediate assistance if you are having thoughts of suicide. This number can also be used to get resources if you are concerned about someone else who might be having suicidal thoughts. So this number is available 24/7 to anyone who needs it. Now, the final section of this site that I want to look at is the Get Involved section. So if you're just someone who's interested in volunteering your time or getting involved in 211 services or the Jewish Community Services, you can go to this Get Involved tab. And we have a few things. You can donate your services. So if you have an organization or something you do that you want to donate, but you can also just volunteer as an individual. So you click volunteer there. And here on the volunteer page, you can volunteer as someone who works for 211, who answers calls. So all you have to do here is fill out your information. So your name, address, phone number, email, date of birth, preferred method of contact, when you might be available to volunteer, both days of the week and times, and then you sign. They will have to do a background check. They will have to do a background check in order to certify you as a volunteer. Then you'd probably go through some training before you can volunteer as well. But if this is something that you are interested in doing with your time, you can just come here and submit yourself to volunteer to find out more information there. So that is pretty much the 211 website. Obviously offering a lot of the same sort of services just digitally that calling in does. However, if you are in need of immediate services, or there is some sort of immediate emergency for immediate services or a helpline, do call 211. If you are in need of immediate emergency care, you do need to call 911 for that. Anyway, thank you for listening. I hope you found this helpful. And if you have any other questions about anything else tech related, you can always call us toll free at 305-419-0906, or you can visit us online at cyberseniors.org/Miami.